Hello and welcome to another episode of Alfsu. Today I'm reporting all the way from New York City, and with me in the zoo is Katie Tierney. Welcome to the zoo, Katie.
Thanks for having me back, Alf.
You recently became the Twin Cities Geekette of the month. What does that mean?
So the Geekettes is an organization that was started in Berlin, and they now have chapters in Berlin, in Lisbon, in London, in New York City, a couple other German cities that I can't pronounce, and Minneapolis.
Yep.
And Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities. So I was asked as part of their launch to be the first Twin Cities Geekette of the month. And the Geekette of the month is just a woman in technology who is able and willing to get out there and support other women in technology. And as part of it, I was asked to speak at the launch party, which was held last Friday night. There were about 100 women in technology and a couple of men. And I shared the stage with Sharon McCullum, who is the CFO of Best Buy. And it was a great evening opportunity for me to share my story in technology with a bunch of younger women who are looking at what their careers in technology are going to look like.
That's exciting. That's great. I love to see these type of social networks. Actually, social network is the wrong word. Support networks within women. Having two daughters myself, I think it's very important that you guys stick together in this man-dominated technology world.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it was funny because one of the conversations started in the room and then continued on through Twitter through the weekend.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. So one of the reasons you involved in this type of thing is you talking to customers all the time, and you always have sort of the finger on the pulse there, seeing how technology is shifting. And I think last time we had a discussion, we talked about cloud and social and mobile was really starting to come at the forefront. It was being talked about it for a long time, but it takes a while before customers start to implement. Is that still what's happening? Are they still excited about that, or have their interest in or SMAC, as we call it, social mobile analytics and cloud, has that waned or is it increased?
It's actually increased. I was out at a customer in St. Louis last week, and one of the leaders, one of the VPs of technology said, look, my struggle is that I am now dealing with people who are 10 years younger than I am used to dealing with. And the technologies that they expect are 10 years younger than what we know, and we have pressure to make them excited about coming to work, and we can't make them excited with these old, antiquated systems.
So everything has to be available on a mobile device. There should be a social aspect to it. Mm-hmm. What about a little bit more advanced technologies like context-aware, location-based technology? Do they grasp that? Because they use it in Google Maps, they use it in Yelp, but do they yet see use cases in their own businesses for things like that?
Yeah, they really are, particularly around, surprisingly, mundane things like equipment problems and equipment self-service, and being able to come in and take a phone, for example, that's maybe down, and instead of having to call, well, the phone's down, I can't call the service desk, so I'm just going to ignore it. Well, heck, I could take a picture of it, take a picture of the QR code, take a picture of the problem, and have that automatically pushed to the service desk. They recognize that there is significant value in that for their business to make things better. And so they're starting to recognize that. And again, if you think about what the workforce is starting to look like and the tools and technologies that we have at home, IT managers are starting to almost get a little bit of a fear that, hey, if I don't do this, if I don't start to leverage technology that allows my people to, let's say, check in an office so somebody knows they're actually in the office, how is that helping provide value to the business? You know, and they're getting worried that they're falling behind. And so they're looking to companies like BMC to help ensure that they don't fall behind.
That's interesting. Yeah, we talked to a customer, and we talked about the check-in aspect in one of our products for conference rooms, for example. And we were almost laughing at, oh, you know, it's not, you don't have to use that aspect. And said, no. You have no idea how many people book equipment or book in a conference room and never show up. And so you're going to use this. If you haven't checked into what you booked within 10 minutes of the start time, we're gonna release it to the public so they can now book this resource. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, well, and it helps drive down costs too, because what happens when you've got resources that you think are being utilized and they're not, you don't really have a way to track that and then manage the resources appropriately from a facility standpoint. And that's the thing, though, Alf. This isn't just about IT. This is about IT and facilities and finance and HR and the holistic experience that we should be providing end users for anything. If they can bank on their phone, they can take a picture of their check, like I can with USAA. I just take a picture of the check and it's in my bank account. That level of sophistication should be in the workplace as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think it's coming. It's finally coming because the pressure is so immense from the outside to force IT, if you will, to modernize. And so that leads me to another question. Are corporations and are the IT and facility department and the sort of the internal services, if you will, whatever shape and form they take, are they becoming more customer-centric? Because there's always talk about you should not build a company around a product, you should build it around your customer. Are we doing that? Is that happening?
In most of the industries, yeah, it's happening. And again, it comes to that fear: are we going to be modern enough to be an organization that supports the business longer term? The customer centricity piece of it, looking at an IT end user not as a number, not as just a name, but as a person. You know, user, I've heard this said before. User, I think it was probably Evelyn Orlick at Forrester who said it. User means like addict almost.
I know, and when she says that, it sounds more severe than it is. But yeah, I know, I've heard that too.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, because these are people who expect personalized experiences that IT has to provide, facilities has to provide, HR has to provide, and they have to look at this as a person. I think, actually, I use the term HR, and it's human resources. I absolutely hate that term, because they're not resources, they're people. And they need to get this experience that's a people experience.
Yeah.
So yes, the answer to your question is yes. I see most organizations looking at customer centricity, how they can be customer centric, not in just what they do as a business, whether it's banking, whether it's retail, whether it's energy, but also how they deal internally in their business and how they serve their business customers and their business people.
And in the future, this whole discussion about quantification, which I think always reminds me of Radiohead songs, is like, always try to be happier and fitter and more productive. But you have a little wristband, don't you?
My Fitbit, and I don't have a rash.
Oh, that's always that's a great endorsement. They should have that on the billboards. What do you measure?
So I actually am paying most attention to the number of steps I take in the day, and I try and hit my 10,000. And once I consistently will get to 10,000, then I'm going to up it, and I'm going to continue to challenge myself and track what I'm doing. And I'm using it to improve my health, and it's with me all the time. I don't track my sleep with it, because I sleep with my hands under my head, and this thing would bother me. But I do track, how many steps am I taking? How many flights of stairs am I climbing? And with a job like this, where some days I'm at a desk and some days I'm out in front of customers, it's kind of, I need to know what I'm doing. I need some help.
And do you think this type of technology, the quantification, will eventually be incorporated into our workplaces? They will know that I'm hungover because my heart rate, or they'll know that this guy in the warehouse is working too hard because he's taking too many steps, and certain factors will be showing the risk is on its way. Do you think that will be in the future?
I think that we have the technology. It's just like the $6 Million Man. We have the technology, but do we want to use it? And do we want to use it in that way? And will will the people allow companies to start to have that level of control over their bodies? And it's a really interesting conversation. And I know if we talk to Chris Dancy, Chris is going to have one opinion about how it's all going to come together at the end. I feel like we'll get to a point where it's just so Big Brother-ish, so 1984-ish, that people will take a step back and say no. But frankly, we have the technology. We have technology that can monitor our heart rates as we're speaking, and people can tell, that I'm one of those people who just visibly gets excited. But some people don't, but their heart rate's still going, and you can monitor and track that stuff. But man, I think it's an awfully slippery slope to start monitoring people like that, and that just gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
Yeah, when we introduce our location-aware solutions to customers, they invariably ask if they can track people. And I hope they don't watch this. I find it, what are you, a semi-fascist? Why do you want to know where people are? Don't you trust your workers? And then they show me the money they can save in productivity costs if they have better ideas. And I said, okay, they have a good point. So there will be a balance, hopefully, between... it's not control for the sake of control, although I think there's some of that, but there's actually a business outcome they're searching for.
Yeah, and if you look at it from that perspective, field services technicians, that's a perfect example of needing location awareness, because you have to understand where they are so that as you submit work orders out, you can say, okay, let's say it's a retail. I have Jim in his van, and he is 2 miles away from store 743, and we can dispatch him out to 743 because we know where he is. It's a little different than tracking the number of steps and his heart rate.
Yeah, I know. That's an interesting future we're standing right in front of, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come into the zoo again and talk to me about it. So thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Al.
For the rest of you out there, take care. Be safe. Bye-bye.